Hello everyone, today I will be bringing you a Blender tutorial on how to create a better looking hologram. I made a how to create a simple hologram a while back, and people asked how to create it more like Cortana from like Halo, and I think there was one from Star Wars. Yeah, sort of like that. Anyway, that sort of hologram. More detailed stuff like that. Anyway, and I messed around and this is what I came up with. So you can see I've got some particles going around, I've got this sort of wire build up, I've got these streaks like you can see in the Towers one, and it's got an outer glow, a bit of sharper edge, a bit of a sharper edge even, so you can see I've gone for a similar effect. Anyway, so this basic scene is pretty much just a few lamps and the hologram pad. I didn't do too much with it because I was just going to, well, I want to keep it more simple because I was going to have to give a tutorial on it obviously, so don't want to make it too overwhelming and long. The compositing I still need to clean up a bit, but basically I've got 3 render layers. I've got 1 or 2 groups in here, nothing too hard though. Anyway, with that out the way, I'm going to just jump straight into it and get started. Okay, so let's get into a new scene. Let's reset timer so I know how long I've been going for. That's what she said. First thing I'm going to do is go to front and orthographic. So that's 1 and then 5. And then I'm going to select my default cube. Press X, Shift A, plane. I'm going to scale once and twice. I need to close Facebook down. I took a little break in between this. Anyway, I'm going to now select a circle, and I'm going to keep it at 32, and I'm going to change the fill type to triangular fans. In the last patch, if you used Ngon, there was a problem with sort of a seam almost. It had 2 massive lines right there if you check smooth shading, so that's why I'm keeping it as that. I'm going to toggle into edit mode. I'm going to extrude up and scale in. I'm going to extrude, right click, scale, extrude, scale out, whoops, extrude, right click, scale out, and extrude, scale inwards, maybe pull it down a bit, maybe in a little bit more, and in again, C, E, scale, E, scale, whoops, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just giving this a little bit of shape and detail because I don't want just sort of a plain boring shape, although it really doesn't matter because it's just a tutorial, but you can spend as much time as you like. And I'm just going to drag this down so that gap isn't as big. Okay, there we go. Now, like I said, smooth shading, I'm going to put on, I'm going to hit Control 1, and what that shortcut does, let me drag this out a bit so you can see a bit better. It will add a subsurface modifier of 1, and first thing I'm going to do is Alt select that, go up to mean crease, which is at the very top, and I'm going to change that to 1. What mean crease does, it sort of does the same thing like a loop cut would do, which is give it more definition, but I think it's actually quicker to render if you don't use, no, if you use that, because it's not creating more faces. So that's my little tip. Jesus, can I, hold on, I don't want to box it, I want to change this to icon. Okay, Now hopefully you shouldn't get as much. Anyway, I'm going to change this to about 0.8. So what I'm going to do now is just go around and give this a bit more definition by like just adding 0.5 and maybe 0.7 to this. Again, 0.5. It's just a bit of a guessing game. Not actually too sure. Yeah, it looks pretty defined. Add maybe 2 cuts into there though, to make sure that's definitely concaved, is that the right word? To about there. I'm going to shift 3 lines in here because I want this to be nice and thick. And I probably need 1 or 2 lines right here. So let's go 7. Extrude scale. Yeah. So that's that. When it's rendered it will go into 2, so it'll look even better, but let's save that for the render. Anyway, I'm going to press N so my screen's a bit bigger, and what it does is hides this properties menu, I think that's what it's called. Anyway, so yeah, that's the hologram pad, so let's actually just label that by going onto our object tab and writing holo, whoops, got caps on, holo pad. Right, now what it needs, I'm not sure if I said it, but I hid the floor by pressing H, and you can unhide it by pressing Alt H, but it's just in the way a bit at the moment, so I'm going to move that. Move this slightly down past this axis. Just when the floor's there, it looks like it's sunken into the floor. And now I'm going to add Suzanne, which most of you know as Monkey Head, or the Monkey Head, because no test seems complete without her, or him, or it, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, I don't think it matters too much. I'm going to move that about there, just a bit above it. And I'm going to add a smooth shading and again control 1, and again all it's done is add a subsurf of 1. Right, now I'm just going to go grab this lamp and I'm going to go with on here and hit 0, tab 0, tab 0. And actually I'm going to go 0, 180, 0. Okay, I'm also going to drag this up, whoops, to about here, just so it's above the hologram plate is. If that made sense, which you probably didn't. Anyway, I'm going to hit Shift C to recenter the cursor, and I'm going to change the lamp type to a spot. And when we did all the rotations and locations, I made it so it's centered in the hologram and pointing upwards, which is why we changed 1 to 180. Change this down to about 5, still too big, maybe about 3.5, and that should do. I'm going to check halo, and I'm going to check buffer shadow, and that will open up a load of options. I want this up to about 6, maybe even 7. What that does is there'll be I can just sort of show you, that determines how well this sort of lighting looks at the end. So that's what that does. Well, I think that's a bit wide, so I'm going to scale this. I might even hold shift while I'm scaling it, but dragging this just give me a bit more control and something about that. and of course change the lamp to a nice blue. And I think that's that done. So now I'm going to add another lamp. I'm going to make it a point and drag it into about the middle of this little triangle. I'm going to change the strength to about 0.5 and change the lamp type again to blue, color to blue. I'm going to change this to about 5, check sphere so I can see how far out it reaches. And yeah, that looks good to me. It doesn't matter too much really, but oh, I'm going to move the camera to front view, so I'm going to hold down Control Alt Numpad. Control Alt Numpad 0. That will just move it to the front. Might want to move it there. In fact, maybe a bit higher. Might want to rotate on the X to look down a bit. And if I render, oh, coffee. Excuse me. The scene is a bit dark, so we want something to be able to light it up and, well, light it up. But first things first, we're going to start naming these before we get too carried away. I'm going to call this a holo lamp because that creates a hologram effect. Suzanne can stay with the name Suzanne. This is a key lamp because this is the main lamp in the scene. Lamp pad. If I hit Alt H and I select this, I can name the plane. I can leave it plain, but I'm going to just call it floor, just so it's easier to see what's what in our little outliner. And now let's get the area lamp in, and this will be our fill lamp because it will fill the scene with another colour, or just so we can see everything in the scene. We're going to want to turn this to about 0.5 maybe. And one of the biggest factors with this area lamp is the distance actually, so let's change that to about 2 for now. And I'm going to want to give this a slightly yellow tinge. The reason for that is this is mainly a blue scene, and to balance out the colour I need to go to the opposite, which would be, I'm selecting blue from about there, so I need to give it a slight yellow tinge to help keep the effect, not effect, sort of the theme I suppose. And I'm going to make this to about 10, maybe 15. And one thing I also want to do is change the background colour so it blends nicely, because we only want to really be able to see the focus of our scene. And while we're here, actually I'm going to check some indirect lighting and approximate. Cool. Yeah, so let's just give that a quick render. Okay, so as cool as this might look at the moment, I think the fill lamp is actually taking too much focus away from the main object, so we're going to dim that right down by changing the distance to 1. Looks pretty cool. Yeah, I'm liking that. I might need to move the floor up a little bit actually, but apart from that it's looking alright. So let's just quickly go over here. Oh. That doesn't really change anything. I'm going to keep that to 0. I'm going to keep this to 0 just to speed it up. Okay, in which case I'm just going to leave it. Okay, there's not too much definition around the face, so we're going to need to light that up slightly. And the way we're going to do that is by using point lamps. I could use once. I'm going to go top view by pressing 7. I'm going to change the distance right down, maybe to about 3. I'm going to give it a blue tinge. And check this layer only specularity off. I'm going to change the distance to about 0.3. And I'm going to check sphere so I can see where it is in the scene. I'm going to change the distance down as well. Don't want it to light up too much. Shift D. Shift D. G. Yeah, okay. So they're all cool. Control L to link object data. So if I want to change anything later on, I can quickly change them all. And I'm going to move these up slightly. Maybe even change the colour a bit darker. I'm sorry if you can hear the vacuum. In fact, I might stop until the vacuum's done. Oh, maybe I'm going to carry on. Okay, just going to give this a quick render, see where we're at. I'm going to hit 1 on my numpad, so we'll scale it to 1:1, so I don't get any pixely areas. Okay, that looks good, and I don't think the... No, you can see more definition on the face, which is what we're after. Okay, now let's start with our particle system. In fact, I'm going to hide these. And just for the record, these would probably be our rim lamps if we're going by a 3-point lighting method. Okay, I'm going to have to stop. Hide these. Okay, 2 secs. Okay, I think the vacuum's far enough away that you can't hear it, but yeah, I'm just going to carry on now. This tutorial's getting slightly longer than I would hope, so I'm going to have to split this into 2 parts. Yeah, so let's start on the particle system, and we'll stop it just after we finish with materials. Oh god, hold on. Oh, no, I'm back. I need to stop opening my mouth so quick. Ah, there it is. Let's change this to, I don't know, 20. G. Up that, move it about there. Said G. In fact, if I just go to here, hit 0, 0, 0, I can just center it nicely. Another way I could have done that is Shift C and then hold Shift S and center it to origin or cursor, and I could have done it that way, but I think that might actually be a problem, so I'm going to scale it to there. In fact, I'm going to move this up. Okay, so that's done. So let's start on our particle system. So we're going to create a new particle. I'm going to give it 500, just half it because it's a tutorial, so it doesn't matter too much. I'm going to make it to 100, and actually let's change our thing to only be 100. So I'm going to change the end frame, and then I'm going to hit home when I'm hovering over it, and I'm going to scale it up, scroll out once so it fits nicely. I'm going to check that to even. In fact, let's just see what happens if we hit play. They sort of jump up and then just fall through. And if we scroll out, we can see they're falling through the world, which isn't what we want. We want them to stay in our scene. Way around this, we could turn this way up to like 100 and it would just fly up, but it's not really what we want. We want sort of dust, so it's like floating, so we need to turn the gravity down really. So let's change that to 0. Could just drag it down, but I did it that way. Now let's see what happens. They float up nicely. But they're just stopping at one spot, so we could change that up. And as you can see, it's more random and it doesn't look so generated. But I'm going to change that to 0.9 actually. Yeah, that still looks natural enough. And I don't want it to go through the head because I think that might mess up the render, or I don't think it should. So I'm just going to add a collision and click kill particles. So when something or a particle collides with it, it will die. And what else can I do? The way it floats around, that's what I want to change. And change this up to about 0.3. Yeah. And I'm going to change the browning amount. This will give it sort of more curve to make it look more natural, so maybe 5. And this looks a lot more random and what I'm after. So yeah, this is looking good. But what it's actually emitting at the moment, oh, there's something, render. No, it's too fast now, isn't it? So 1. Oh, excuse me. Under render, it will render halos, and what I just unchecked is emit, so we don't want to see this. In fact, let's name it as well, just so we know. Emitter. Anyway, back on subject. We don't want it to actually render halos, because halos are sort of really old methods of creating particles, and Blender Guru just says stay away from them, so I just take his word for it. Anyway, so I'm going to create a new object and use a circle, and I'm going to change the vertice count up to 8. I'm going to drag this way behind the camera just in case, and what I'm going to do is hit Shift D and hit on the x-axis, drag it on the x-axis, even not hit it. Anyway, yeah, drag it along the x-axis, and I'm going to hit Shift R twice. Now what that's done is repeats last operation, so I Shift D'd and dragged it that way a bit, so it has done the same twice after, because I pressed it twice. Anyway, so now we've got these 4 little circles. We can hit Ctrl G and name it par for our particle system. And if we come over here under our particle and we hit group, right click this part and then pick random. Okay, they're all a bit big. Anyway, so yeah, they're a bit big. So let's scale them down, maybe even a tad smaller. 0.75. Yeah, that's good. And I'm going to change the random amount up as well to about 0.6. Don't ask me why, it's just first thing that popped into my head. Whoa. What is going on? Okay, I'm going to save this. No one knows what that was, let me know please. Because it's happened a few times now and I'm not sure what it is that I've done. Okay, so I'm going to open it again, but I'm going to scroll down here, uncheck load UI, that way it will, yeah, that's fixed it. Yeah, let's carry on. So I've just created that and it's now shooting them up, if you can see. But they're just sort of floating up in like one, they're just going straight up, so I want to give it some rotation. So to do that we have to check rotation, click dynamic, and change this to about 0.3 and random amount 0.2 maybe. And now it's like spinning and it's gonna look good. So yeah, this is this, that's that done. Now we need to do is colors and materials. So let's start on the particle system, see we're here. I'm just gonna start on this. I'm gonna give it a blue because the light on the hologram is blue. And I'm gonna give it some emission value because we checked that on earlier. And I'm just going to go to here, use the same material, check that number 2 though to make it a separate material so I can change this without changing that one, and so on. And you just want to give these all maybe slightly different colours to make it look maybe not so perfect, if that makes sense, because they wouldn't be all the exact same colours if it's sort of dust that's catching light and glowing through that. Anyway, but yeah, it's just what I've sort of imagined. I've picked random, I've done that. Yeah, I think these are pretty much ready to go. So that's our particle system done. If we just quickly look at it, see they're all sort of flying up randomly. If they touch that, they actually die, so that can actually speed up the render too, I suppose. We might have a quick render now. We'll just get through this quickly. Now time for the floor. I'm gonna just give it a quick light grey. Maybe turn specularity down a bit, maybe turn the hardness up. No transparency, maybe a mirror. Slight reflectivity, maybe turn it up once. And turn the gloss up a bit so it's not a perfect reflection. Let's go on to this actual hollow pad now, and I'm going to start by selecting it all, give it a new material, and another one. Whoa, let's just drop my phone. All those. Change this to blue. In fact, what we can do is just make one of these. Maybe not that one. Maybe the top one. Yeah, top one looks good. Create a separate material though, and go back to shading, turn it up a bit. It's just going to be one of the main points, main focuses on it. And maybe create these two as well. Yeah. I'm going to hide this emitter. I'm going to go into here, select this. Whoa. And this. I'm holding down Shift and Alt to select the whole loop, or multiple loops at a time. So that's that done. Oops. In fact, no. Let's create that one. So, in fact, let's go on to here and give it a cloud texture. Let me just scale that up and change depth and maybe that bit. And if we just go to tube and change this to a different color, we go on preview material. There you can see it sort of has different colours, and when that's lit up and it's glowing, that should look really cool. So that's that done. Oh, no it's not. The metal material for this, I almost forgot about that. Let's select the material for the floor, because that's pretty good. Again, whoops, hit 2, or hit that 2 to make it a separate object. Give it another metal material. Texture, cloud material. Give it another texture, clouds should just be fine. Maybe a little less colour. Bit of geometry. 0.1. If you remember in the actual thing, it had this sort of certain parts caught lights, and it looked sort of like worn out and destroyed, which I kind of liked. I believe if you go to 0, yeah, it will center it. Now if you go all the way to black, it should center it back at the center. You can just drag it up slightly to however light you want it. Whoops. Change this bit. So yeah, that's sort of what I'm creating here. There you can sort of see it's nice and bumpy, catching light at certain points, which I think looks pretty nice. I could also grab specularity and put some of that on. Yeah, okay, that should look pretty cool. And if you remember on Cortana, I'm just gonna hide this lamp actually, she had like 2 different materials on her. She had sort of a blue, in fact I'm just gonna get a picture up of her. Give me 2 seconds. If I just go to my Halo 3, I haven't played Halo 4 so I'm not sure what she looks like there. Let's just go for this image. She has like this light blue and then this darker blue which is like almost see-through. So that's what I'm gonna create. First things first, save time. I'm gonna, in fact no, I'm gonna keep it. Let's see, face selection, create new, oops, create new and create a second. So let's get these 2 materials set up. I'm gonna have the light blue and both materials sort of give off light, so let's just create what we see. There's a bit of specularity on it. Yep, and a point, maybe 3 mission, and this one was sort of a deep blue and it had like no specularity on it. And it was sort of wiry, so let's just put it into wireframe, and add a mission value as well, so we'll do that, and then we'll just go around, select a few random bits of him. I'm just using Alt. Not going to spend too much time on it because it's, you can spend as much time as you like, but for the sake of time I'm just gonna select some random bits. I could have cut them in half if I wanted to. That would have sped this up, and then I could just apply a mirror modifier. But yeah, okay, that'll do. So just click assign, and looks sort of like some guy's face painted himself. Anyway, I'm gonna hit Alt H and move this up slightly. I'm just gonna hit render, see what it looks like, see in a bit. One thing I forgot to mention is it's actually quite see-through, or got a hint see-through, hint of opacity or whatever you want to call it. So I'm gonna just recreate that here, drag it about here, and why not? Just so it's slightly see-through. I could go into ray tracing, go into more detail, but I don't really care too much. It's just a little bit of detail. Anyway, yeah, see you in a sec. Okay, so it's not as nice as the final result, but we still have the compositing, which really helps the effect. And if you're curious how long mine took to render, it says right up there. I'm recording, right? Yeah. Okay. I think this should do it for part 1. Be sure to check out part 2 to, well, finish your hologram. Bye.